Greetings and salutations, YouTubers. This is ZillaFan85, and I, of course, represent YouTube's bargain basement of the airwaves. I'm back today with my latest video, my latest figure review. Today, we're going to go ahead and take a look at my Trendmasters SpaceGodzilla figure. So, very, very cool here. This, again, it is from the Trendmasters line back in the mid-90s. I believe 1995 is when this one came out. This was part of the their Godzilla Wars 40th anniversary box set. So it's not the standalone figure, it's part of that set, and that's how I got this figure, because I really wanted the Anguirus, which I had previously reviewed on my channel. That was a holy grail figure for me. And I was able to get a good chunk of the figures from that set along with it. The seller was selling. So very, very cool there. I'm definitely happy to have this guy. So again, I definitely like SpaceGodzilla a lot. The film, not my favorite, Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla, but I do love SpaceGodzilla as a kaiju. Essentially, I always think of it as after Godzilla's battle with Biollante, when her remains floated out into space, as even the movie kind of stated, merged with that crystalline object in outer space, sucked in through a black hole, pushed out through a white hole, and formed into SpaceGodzilla. So pretty cool origins here. They say it could have also been particles of Godzilla cells that fell off of Mothra when she flew out into space. But the Biollante one is what makes more sense to me, especially when you notice some of SpaceGodzilla's features that are more representative of Biollante. So anyway, though, let's go ahead and jump on into this figure review here, folks. So starting with the paint and the detail work, very, very cool. They did SpaceGodzilla in this more bluish type paint scheme here. These figures are, for the most part, tend to be very stylized, so not really film accurate, but cool looking nonetheless. I like this nice royal blue that they gave SpaceGodzilla here. As you look at his face here, again, you got that sort of elongated snout with the white, like ivory bone color tusks that they gave him for this figure, which again is more indicative of Biollante's design. So very, very cool, and again, nice, like an ivory white bone color for the teeth as well. Just sort of like a blue for the inside of the mouth, but again, this is an old figure, vintage figure basically, so it may have had a different paint, may have had like more red and whatnot inside the mouth, so the paint might have just been worn over time, but still very cool nonetheless. And you got SpaceGodzilla's crest on the top of his head here. They did it in sort of like a blending of like a yellow neon green and then into like an orangish red kind of color as it bows towards the point, that three-tipped point there. Some of the paint is a little bit worn on it, as you guys can see, but still very, very cool. Nice detail work captured for it as well. Even got some rivets lined up amongst the crest as well, so you guys can hopefully kind of pick that up there. Doing the best I can here with the camera work. Very, very cool. They gave him like these blank red, ruby red eyes. Again, very, very cool. Again, hopefully you guys can pick that up with the camera there. Trying my best here. And then you got some like the scales and whatnot along the face that run down into the neck and the body there. So very, very cool. You got those very large shoulder crystals, very indicative of SpaceGodzilla's design, that bow upward from the tops of his shoulders there. Nice patterning, definitely different lines and segments there as the sort of skin merges into the hard crystals that point out into the tip there. Again, different line segments for those crystals as well. Very, very cool. A lot of nice attention to detail here for sure. Even though, yeah, it is a stylized Trendmasters figure, they still put a lot of detail into this. So I really, really like it. Very, very awesome. I apologize, it's a bit dusty, so just have it mostly sitting in my box for now. So but I definitely like it though nonetheless. And then as you go down from this crystals into the body here, you got the arms that sort of connect into them, the scales and whatnot that run along Space Godzilla's arms, and then into the hands with some of the segments and grooves in his hands, and then go into the claws, again more of like an off-white bone color similar to the teeth and tusks for the claws there, his finger claws. Very, very cool. You got some more scales that go along the sides of his body, and then the neck, chest, and abdomen area. Very, very cool detail work here. Got scales, you got segments and lines and all sorts of detail patterning here that, does capture Space Godzilla's general look pretty darn well, I think. So you got some of the sort of different grooves and musculature pattern on the front of his neck there. Got some, and again, this all this stuff done in that bluish color, but then as you go into the front of the neck, you got more of that sort of neon green, and then that bows into the pattern along the chest, which is a bit of combination of the neon green, yellow, and then like that orangish red color for the center part of the chest there. Again, almost like a skeletal kind of feature that you see for the very center there. Very, very cool. And really, really can feel all the detail work. Very, 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 very cool. And then as you go down into the more abdomen area, you got that sort of depressed area there, which was almost like indicative of Biolante's former core area. But here, just more of like a depressed sort of center area of the abdomen. Again, the different color schemes, the yellow, neon green, orangish red captured. And then you got, as it goes into the lower part of the abdomen area there, again, that patterning and that detail work for that, again, with the yellow and neon green and orangish red. Very, very cool. And then the outer parts obviously done all in that blue, and that sort of royalish blue color. And of course, you got all the segments and all the grooves there, and then the scales along his very, very thick legs there, as you guys can see. The nice detail we're capturing. You got those bumps for the kneecaps there for Space Godzilla. Very, very cool. That patterning along there, and then more of the scales running down the bottom part of the legs into the feet there. And again, more of that ivory bone color done for the toe claws. So very, very cool. Just pretty plain Jane on the bottom, but you do have some trademark information here as you go into the tail. So if you guys can pick that up on the camera or not. That it's faded. It looks like it says trademark Toho Trendmasters. I think it says copyright 1995. Anyway, some trademark information there. But then that tail itself all done. You got that bluish, that royalish blue color along the tail with the different segments and scales done all along it on the top part and on the bottom part as well. All the detail work, the lines and segments done along the bottom of the tail. And then of course on the top there you got his dorsal spines, just like with Godzilla, the 3 rows of the dorsal spines, the small ones here on the back of the neck that run into the larger ones that run down his all along his back and into his tail. And really, really done well. And these, unlike Godzilla's, these are more of like a crystal type dorsal spine, which goes along with his crystal features that he's got. So very, very cool. And again, just like with the points of the crystals done in this sort of white color here, all like an off-white almost, and then basically the same off-white done for the dorsal spines as well, as they run all along the tail. Sort of looks like they probably did a spray-on paint, just because of the white color running even in between the spines as well, but still looks pretty cool nonetheless. I like it. Again, you got all the dorsal spines that run along the bottom of the tail. And they're pretty rubbery, so they're not too sharp, but, nice detail work nonetheless. And then, of course, you got that crystal multi-pointed tip that's at the very end of his tail there, again, in that off-white color. And looks really, really cool. All the different points that it comes to here. And nice little detail work. Again, pretty rubbery. It's a, sort of like a rubbery kind of figure, I guess you would say. It's like a plastic, but like a soft plastic. So, but very, very cool though. A lot of nice paint and detail work that they did for SpaceGodzilla here. So I happen to really, really like it a lot. That pretty much covers it for the paint and the detail. As far as articulation, as is with most of these figures in this box set, there's really not much. Looks like a little bit of like a segmentation here for the arms, but I believe that's really just like a glue seal. You can just because it's rubbery, you can sort of go in and out, but they're not really going to hold a pose. And then otherwise there's really nothing else. So it's a pretty just kind of standard fare. So again, not really much as far as articulation, but you can certainly just move some of the parts like the tail and whatnot like that, just because again, it is a rubbery type of plastic. So soft rubbery plastic. But other than that, nothing else really to write home about. And that's about it then as far as that goes. Now as far as sizing, standard fare for these Trendmasters figures that are in the smaller, you got the smaller size, which is what this one is, and then you got the larger scale, which is like a 10-inch scale. But this guy is in that more like that 4 to 5 inch range. I'd say at the top of his head or crest, you're looking at just around 4 inches, maybe slightly over. If you look at the top of the tail, you're looking at about 4.5 inches. So just to bring the camera in a little bit closer and showcase for you guys. So just to see what you're working with. So again, these are not meant to scale in with 6 to 7 inch figures. Trendmasters is its own thing, but just so you guys see what you're working with. And as far as size comparison, best thing to do is size them in with other Trendmasters figures, which even that's not always great, but it gets the job done nonetheless. And I have my Trendmasters Godzilla figure here for the size comparison, so you guys can see how they scale together, and they definitely look pretty cool. So showcase for you guys there. Very, very awesome though. I like it a lot. And then other than that though, as far as pricing on this guy, now if you're gonna get like that full box set, you're looking at well over $100 if you're gonna try to get that Godzilla Wars 40th anniversary box set from Trendmasters. You're looking at probably $100 to $200, maybe even more. If you're gonna get this figure loose like this, I've seen it going, if you're going to look, I would look on like eBay, et cetera, et cetera. That's probably your best bet at this point. I've seen him going for usually like in the $20 to $30 range loose like this. Now, if you get the standard release for SpaceGodzilla, which they have, if you get it in package, I should say, I've actually seen that one going upwards of $100 or even more. I personally can't recommend paying that much for these figures. I know that they're vintage and all that, and essentially collector items now, but when they released, they were like, I don't know, like in the $10 range, I believe, back in the 90s. So you have to kind of choose your own adventure there, I guess I would say. But just something to keep in mind though, folks. But other than that, that pretty much covers it for this video here. I apologize. It's been a little bit since I've done any videos. Just, you know, a lot of personal stuff going on right now. But, you know, definitely gonna, you know, try to do videos when I can. I am looking forward to, you know, we're currently in the month of September here in 2025, and we're going to be shifting gears soon next month for October for my spooky October figure reviews, and I'm hoping to at least line up a couple videos for that, if possible, at least one anyways, but hopefully a couple. You know, I love October, Halloween time, my favorite time of the year, so so definitely looking forward to doing some stuff for that. In the meantime, in between now and then, I'll see how things go, if I'll try to do another video before that starts. So just kind of stay tuned though, folks. But, you know, I apologize, there's not much content here. It's just kind of standard fare nowadays for me. So, but I appreciate anybody that has stuck with me though. Anyways though, guys, I would like to thank you so much for watching. If you would like to subscribe, please feel free to do so. If you would like to like and or comment on any of my videos, please feel free to do so as well. And just remember, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you be good to yourselves, and sayonara.